Hey guys, it's Luke here and welcome back to another video. You join me today once again in my little office space. You guys seem to be really enjoying this backdrop, which I don't blame you. There is some incredible cars up there on the wall. It's good to have them kind of, displayed because they've kind of been collecting dust up until I got those display cabinets. But anyway, today's video is going to be a little bit of a different one actually. With everything that is going on at the moment, it is really quite hard for me to make my usual type of content, get out, get in one of the cars and go for a nice drive and kind of bring things to you live. But I saw actually Mr. JWW do this video where he basically relived some of his recent memories, some of his favorite memories, and tell kind of behind the scenes stories of what happened in the shoot or whatever. Some of you guys may have seen that video. I enjoyed it a lot. So essentially, I'm going to be kind of stealing it a little bit and doing something pretty much fairly similar. I thought it was a really cool idea because it gives me the opportunity to, yes, speak to you guys, relive the day, and also tell you some stuff which you might not know that happened on this shoot. And the one that we're going to be featuring today is the hot hatch drag race I did in partnership with BOTB. Absolutely phenomenal day that was, albeit it definitely had some hiccups which I'll get into. But a huge thank you to the guys once again over at BOTB for supporting me on the day and supporting the channel a lot actually. I'm lucky enough to have worked with them numerous times now, and even though this video is not sponsored, I will leave the link to them down in the description below. But for those of you who didn't actually see the video, basically what I did is I hired out a runway, got 10 of what I think are the best hot hatches that you could buy and pretty much drag race them down the runway. Now the cars that we had there were my Golf R at the time. We had both the A45 and A35, what is now the previous generation A45. We had a Focus RS, an i30N, an S3, an RS3, an M140i and a Civic Type R. I think that's all of them. But some serious cars there, and all in all made for a really good video. But something which certainly a lot of people actually noticed was the restriction of space that we had on the day. I hired the runway and I thought that I had the whole width of this runway so that I could put all 10 cars all together and pretty much race them at the same time. That of course didn't happen. I think I had about 5 lanes, and obviously because we're getting up to like 150 down this runway, because I did it over a half a mile rather than a quarter mile drag race, it means that having say like 3 cars right next to each other on these lanes going about 150 just was not viable at all. And of course because we had 10 cars we couldn't do it 3 in sets of 3, because you could do 3 races with 3 cars and then have 1 car at the end just racing itself. So it really didn't work. And actually on the day it wasn't meant to just be a drag race, it was meant to be a half a mile drag race, a braking test, and something else, but it was meant to be like a best of 3 thing. So it was going to be like the ultimate hot hatch face-off. Basically what this drag race was like the season finale for hot hatch head-to-head, which might be returning soon, which is really exciting. And so I thought it would be rude not to do a big send-off for this series, featuring as many cars as I could, which actually featured in the head-to-head videos. So yeah, that was one thing that didn't really go to plan. We kind of got there and thought, hang on, where's the rest of it? But we kind of made the most of it as best as we could. Now, another thing which happened, which I don't know if you could really tell in the video, but just how windy it was there. It was an airfield, and so it was a big open space. Now, I was looking at the weather for like 2 weeks before this day, which we had booked, and it was looking good. It was getting a little bit cloudy and stuff, but it was looking good. We got there on the day and it was absolutely, it was sunny-ish, but it was just so windy, which of course made me buy one of these last minute, which I'm using for this video. But of course that didn't work properly, so we had to do so many other little bits. And of course we were under pressure time-wise, because I only booked it for half a day, because I thought, yeah, we could get it all in like 5-6 hours, because when you see it having like for an area for 6 hours rather than like 10 hours, you think, oh yeah, I'll be able to do it in 6 hours, I'll be all right, because normally my videos take like 2 hours to make. So I thought, yeah, I could do that easy. Of course, no, we were right up to the wire and because it was so windy, it just made it so much more stressful. And of course I had so many different cameras to capture. I did have a little film crew there, a couple of friends of mine who very kindly filmed the majority of the video for me. But of course I wanted to put GoPros on the cars, inside the cars, getting as many starts as I could, and of course the extra B-roll and whatnot. And obviously the guys over at BOTB were then filming like a behind the scenes video as well of the whole day. So there was cameras everywhere, and you might be able to see actually in parts of the BOTB video me just running around and kind of think, oh, that camera's still recording, or oh, I need to do that before the race starts. And it was chaos. It was absolutely mad, just running around making sure we got all the content that we could. Now, of course, because we didn't have the whole area of the runway to drag race, all of them, we kind of had to get together and think last minute, what are we going to do? We're going to have to sack off the other 2 rounds, just do a drag race, hence why it's called the Ultimate Hot Hatch Drag Race, and kind of focus on doing that. I then had to work out which cars are best to race up against each other, because of course I hadn't planned to do sets of 2. I planned to just have one big drag race of all 10 cars, fly down the straight once, and there we go, done, move on to the next thing. But we essentially spent the whole morning just drag racing cars. It was just such a long-winded way around it. And when I was planning the video, I thought, yeah, no, that's not the way I want to do it. I want to have one big area and just, yeah, do it all at once, because that's the easiest way to see the fastest car, basically. And so once we kind of got things all together, I thought, right, yeah, this is the format we're going to do. We're going to race my car up against the S3. We're going to do the A45 and RS3. We're going to do, I think it was I30N. What was it? I can't remember off the top of my head. There were so many different races because of the different rounds as well. Because say if one car won, then it goes through to like the semi-final, which then races a different car. And then I don't know how many races we did in total, but it was a lot. And of course, the next thing, which didn't really go to plan, was that I then went out in the first round. The first race was me in the Golf R up against Christian in an Audi S3. Of course, I thought it was going to be really close. I thought, yeah, we'll do this one first. It's going to be really close, but I'll just get there and get into the next round. No, he absolutely smashed me. And it is a known fact, or at least I now realise that it's a known fact. The S3 is slightly quicker than a Golf R. So that was embarrassing, but also kind of made it quite funny for the video. So then I was kind of just sat there filming other videos or the clips, so I would say things starting and little bits and bobs. But it was my kind of idea, obviously not to win it, because I knew I wasn't going to win it. But it would have been cool to at least have done maybe 2 or 3 races, not just one. But yeah, this is how it is. And of course, Christian was going around to people saying, oh, can I drive your car up the straight, which then made it into my video as well, which was cool. So it was a day of making up things on the spot, because it's just absolutely typical, right? You spend months, and it was a big thing to get it organised, getting 10 hot hatches together on one day, making sure the venue's all right, making sure the weather's all right, getting cameras there, getting camera crew there, everything all together. All planned for, like, yep, I'm ready for this. You get there on the day and you've got to change everything on the spot whilst the clock is ticking, because you've only booked half a day. I would definitely do it again, and maybe if Hot Hatch head-to-head would return, it would be definitely something that I would like to do. And actually, going back to that, the video itself is done exceptionally well. It's nearly on 500,000 views, and I believe around 6 months that it's been online, which is mad for me, absolutely crazy. So thank you for anyone who has watched that. But anyway, what other stories can I tell you? So we had, obviously, that pretty much the whole thing going wrong, me going out in the first round. Oh, one other thing as well, of course, James, my manager, who you've probably seen on the channel now with the Focus RS, was there kind of for moral support. He set up the thing with BOTB and thought he would come along, not to race his car because his was modified, just to be there, kind of hang out and help where he could. We'd finished the whole video, all the drag races were done. I believe the M140 won, which you may remember the bit in the video where I said, right, yep, I want one now. I want one now. Sod the Golf, I lost in the first round. Actually, I was planning on buying one anyway, but that kind of reassured, justified my reason towards it. And so, yeah, the 141, we were kind of packing up things, making sure the cameras are picked up and everything, making sure everyone's together and we're on time. And basically where we were at Bruntingthorpe, which is where I did the video, we were basing ourselves right at the start of the runway, or right at the other end. So basically, in order for us to leave, we had to drive down the whole runway, which was pretty good. But what did we do? So we were basically just finishing up. I was having a breather because I had not stopped the whole morning. And people were kind of just lining up and just doing some random drag races, because why not? Getting some stuff for the old Instagram, bits and bobs. And James, in his Focus RS, went up against the standard Focus RS. They were both finished in the same colour, but obviously James was modified performance-wise, and the other one wasn't. This all went well. James, of course, won the race, or was winning, at least up until third gear. And essentially, in short, his engine blew up. So he was one of two cars that were there on the day which were not running. So him in the Focus RS and Christian in his GT3. Basically, I think I remember him saying he got up to like third gear, and he just lost all power, and then his oil pressure was just doing that. He came back, limped it back down to base, because he was one of the first to kind of floor it up, because we're all going to meet at the end of the site, shall we say, to kind of give back the radios and making sure that we're all sorted and ready to go. But he then came back to join us to say, look, something's wrong with my car. We then all thought, okay, crikey, we're meant to be out of here, because I think there's some more people due to rent the runway for the afternoon. And it wouldn't start, obviously. But it was weird, because at first his oil pressure was just doing weird things and he lost power, just went into limp mode. But then he got back, turned it off, and thought, okay, maybe it's just a funny thing. Then tried to turn it back on, to turn the car back on again, and it was just not having any of it. Eventually, after cranking it a little bit, I believe the car did start up again. Obviously, in limp mode, it wasn't sounding right at all. So we limped it back up to base, and then kind of just parked it up and waited for the AA. But not thankfully that it happened, because it's just absolutely typical. One of the two cars there that was not flying up the drag strip all morning at 150 mile an hour was the one that blew their engine. But James, I know you'll be watching this video. I know you've got everything's all sorted now, and the car, well, actually featured on the channel fairly recently as well. I say fairly recently. It was last year, but yeah, that was just the icing on the cake, really. Absolutely typical, and one of those kind of moments that you look back now and think, how did that happen? How on earth did that happen? But all in all, everything came out really, really well. But there were some definite hiccups in the day, some which no one knows about, some which may have found their way through the grapevine. But all in all, it all turned out all right, and the video, like I said, is doing extremely well. Which I'm hugely thankful for. One other thing as well to touch on just before I finish off the video is the 140 that won. There was, I don't know how many comments there were, I'd say like 100 or 200 saying the 140 is not stock. It was stock. Obviously, every car there pretty much had its little spoilers and little bits and bobs. So in that sense, it wasn't stock, but I said a little disclaimer in the video that all cars here, performance-wise, so power-wise, are stock. And of course, because it won, and it beat the RS3, which, yes, wasn't the facelifted one, that's basically the reason why it won. But I believe the owner of that did do a dyno day fairly recently after the shoot, and I think he got around 370 brake, which is basically what the cars run standard anyway. I ran mine not too long ago, and it ran 365 thereabouts. So there you go, proof is in the pudding. It was running stock power, but I think that would have been the case of whatever won, probably give people the doubts. But yeah, an incredible day, and kind of cool to give you guys some of the behind the scenes stories, kind of what happened on the day, and for me to relive the moment looking back through the footage. It does bring back some good yet stressful memories, and hopefully again we'll be able to do the same thing. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap things up from me today. A very simple video once again, but one which I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you want to see more of this type of thing, I've got plenty of stories from my life on YouTube, then let me know down in the comments. It would be great to hear from you, just to hear your opinions of what you guys want to see during this very tricky time. But anyway, that's going to wrap things up from me today. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please do make sure you leave a like and make sure you subscribe for all the adventures still to come.